All right, good afternoon, and again, thank you for joining us today on this continual update on this all hands on deck Washington Bridge response. In addition today, briefing, in addition, U.S. Small Business Administration Director Mark Haywood is here as well. Mark, thank you for your help, and we really appreciate the timeliness of that effort as we're on a minute-by-minute response here, both on the safety issues, but also as we shift into the impact that has to do with our economy. So also I want to just state, as in, certainly I've been following the news, and oversight is on the lips of many, and we embrace that. So let's make that very clear, that whether it's on the the state level or the federal level, whatever oversight here that sheds lights on how we got here and how we can continue to respond in a way that creates safety for the people in the state of Rhode Island. We welcome that. We certainly want to make sure that the review is done in a way that is a very open mind type of review and not jump to conclusions. I think that's the environment that will be the most productive. So oversight is important. We welcome it. In addition to the standard we have after any emergency, it is important to have oversight conducted by independent experts as part of the process. So each day we get closer to being out of the immediate emergency. Our team will be preparing our review, and of course we'll partner closely on other reviews that will take place, and then we will share that as we proceed. So yesterday, Secretary Tanner and I, along with the SBA Administrator Guzman, and her team, had a call federally, very productive call, and I thank Mark for kind of setting that up, and and certainly Washington knows what's going on in Rhode Island right now. I can tell you that very clearly. Where the administrator had actually a sidebar conversation with the Secretary of Transportation, and we know that our delegation is also has communicated through the federal authorities in a way that we're front and center in terms of their oversight as well. So we'll pursue in this idea of the small business. We'll have Mark and Secretary Tanner explain the fact that I did sign a formal request to the SBA to unlock low-interest economic injury disaster loans for local businesses. The administrator assured us during that call that within the first 24 hours of her receiving it on her desk, that it would be signed so that we could activate programs, one of those, this particular program, to help our small businesses and our businesses around the state. I'll let Secretary Tanner and Mark discuss that to further degrees, Director Haywood, when they get to the podium. As we move into the next levels, and Director will kind of give you updates on where we are in that, but our focus is really starting to really look at our small business and the impact on our economy. There's no doubt that this is an important thing for our economy and maintaining the momentum that we have in the state of Rhode Island, and that's why we're shifting so early into that area, at the same time making sure that the safety measures are in place, and also the construction is going as swiftly as humanly possible. That's why, in addition to pursuing every path to federal funding, there's something that each of us can do to support and rally behind our small business community. The message is the same. Let's make sure we shop local, we shop small. If you happen to not make your your haircut appointment, which I think I did too over the last couple days, make sure you get back in the cycle during the before the holidays, so that business can be recouped. And also, let's I'm hearing from Mayor Smiley on our call today that we had very early this morning with Mark Pappas directing the emergency management section of this, that there are cancellations that's going on. So we want to make sure that everybody understands that the local business is important, and you know, I don't believe that the entire state of Rhode Island is going to be impacted in the same way as East Providence is and Providence is. So let's make sure we support and make every effort to support our small businesses. Don't cancel out anything unless there's a real reason to do it. So let's continue to shop local, dine local, support local. We're hearing that restaurants are having reservations on large party canceled. I reinforce that. So with the bridge opening for two-way traffic this weekend, let's support our small businesses. EMA Director Mark Pappas is here today, and he updated me this morning on a different call that there's been deliveries of traffic cameras, message boards to Providence, East Providence, to help deliver messages to the general public that is in those areas, so they stay updated on a you know, an hour-to-hour, minute-to-minute basis. So we thank Mark and your team. Where's Mark? Mark's hanging around here somewhere. Mark's over here. Mark, thank you so much. Every time that we need emergency management to step up, we can count on Director Pappas, so thank you for that. And I'll cut it short. Certainly you'll be able to answer questions, but Director Albeidi, the microphone's yours.
Thank you, Governor. Again today I want to thank everybody here standing in front. This is, as the Governor keeps expressing, an all-hands-on-deck kind of effort, and I couldn't ask for better partners than you see here in front of you today. We continue at DOT to try and restore the state of convenience that existed before this event happened. And I assure you that everyone here at DOT is measuring and very much understands the challenges that everyone is facing out there, whether it be parents commuting their children to school in the morning and having the disruption in their lives that they've had during the last few days, or whether it be businesses either making sure their customers can get to them, but also their products can get out. And I want to assure everybody that everything that we're doing here at DOT is aimed precisely at being able to restore the convenience that you had prior to this event back in place and get everybody's lives back where they were before that. To that end, I spoke to you yesterday about an accelerated timeline of opening the bypass this weekend. Our project managers and the contractors that we have out there working to do that, we continue to put the pressure, the Governor on me, and in turn me to them and them on themselves, to make it happen sooner, faster. In fact, that is what's happening. The pavement on one lane is already down. Pavement on the second bypass lane is being put in place today. We're hoping that either overnight, tonight or tomorrow, that we'll be able to get the striping down and the signage up that's necessary to be able to have that temporary bypass open on Saturday morning. We may, in fact, depending upon as we get closer to the end of this, we're eliminating a lot of the contingencies that could happen in a construction project, like weather or equipment failure or supply chain problems. But I think we're down to a point where Saturday morning for sure. It could happen sometime during the day tomorrow, before Saturday morning. So we want everybody to be aware. I know this is, it'd be nice to have a definitive time that we can switch, and the definitive time is Saturday morning, but we want everybody to know that we will be messaging out during the day today and tomorrow as we get closer to that time. We'll provide social media, signage, variable message boards, and through all of you here today that are helping us get the word out. We'll make sure that you get our communications to get the word to commuters as early as possible when we have that bypass open. In other areas, the work continues to progress with the permanent fix to the major bridge that we have to that is still staying shut down. The bypass, keep in mind, is only 2 lanes, so there still will be a reduction in capacity to take the original traffic loads that were going over the 3 or 4 lanes that go over the Washington Bridge previous to this event happening. So there will still be some consideration for people wanting to take detours if there's too much of a traffic weight at the 2 lanes that we're opening. Keep that in mind in your travel. Everybody out there, the traveling public and the commuters, have done an outstanding job, and we know it creates angst and impatience, but we ask you to kind of bear with us through this next phase. And as happened with the opening of the detours, over a 2-day cycle, people begin to find their personal preference of routes, and that balances out the traffic a little better and makes things flow better. The same will probably happen when we open these 2 lanes in the next day or so. People will adapt to them, and then after a few days, new traffic patterns that they choose that are their personal best traffic patterns, they'll adapt to, and there'll be a mass balance, and everybody will get used to the new traffic pattern. We continue to work on the permanent fix. The supply of the materials that we need, a vital supply of some components that we thought may be a problem, appear to have been resolved by our project managers and the contractors and their suppliers. So we're hoping that we can continue to apply the same kind of principles in management of the additional work we have to do on the big bridge to get it open, to make that happen sooner too. And I assure you, we're going to keep doing that, because we certainly know that every minute and every hour and every day of travel time that we can save for our constituents out there and our commuters, we're going to do that. We're going to take advantage of all of that. And we're laser focused on having that happen. In addition, you heard me talk during the last few days about the potential of a ferry service from Bristol to Providence. So our folks have made arrangements and have mobilized and created the infrastructure in both Bristol and in Providence to be able to open a ferry service, where we were hoping for Monday of next week. As a matter of fact, it's not one ferry service. We got 3 ferries that will work on half-hour lead times that will create the capacity for over 500 passengers an hour to move from Bristol to Providence and Providence back to Bristol. We have also coordinated closely with our partners at RIPTA to provide shuttle service at each end, so that at the Providence end, there'll be a shuttle service that will bring people from the ferry landing at India Point Park to Kennedy Plaza and the train station, and there'll be shuttles working continuously. And at the other end in Bristol, from a park and ride at Colt State Park to the ferry and back and forth between those 2 locations, that will provide the transit solution necessary to move people from where they are to where they want to go. We, as I said, hope to have that operational on Monday morning. We're pretty sure that the infrastructure will be in place. I think the opening is questionable because of some major storm conditions that we're going to be facing on Monday morning, may push the opening time of the ferry service. But from now until that point, we'll continuously message out to all of you. There'll be half-hour departures at both locations that will begin at about 6 in the morning and end at 7 at night. And we remain flexible on extending that period, but right now that's what we have the commuter period set to work at. We'll keep everybody posted on the progress of that, as we have with the construction of the new bypass. And we'll continue working with the cities and towns on both cities on both sides of the river to make sure that they have the resources and support from our staff and our equipment to manage the transitions that we're making in both directions. And we very much thank our partners in Bristol and in East Providence and Providence for helping us and coordinating with us to make sure that everything goes as smooth as possible. So I'll hand it back over to the governor or Secretary Tanner.
Thank you, Director Alviti. Hello, everyone. Thank you to my colleagues. It has been a great team effort by all of us. I also do want to thank Mayors Smiley and De Silva for providing the Commerce Corporation with information from affected businesses. Along with the information that we've received at Rhode Island Commerce, we've heard from more than 150 businesses affected by the closure. And what we're hearing from them is an inability to deliver supplies or receive supplies. We're hearing about canceled medical appointments, cosmetology appointments. We're hearing most significantly about lost sales, but a surprising and large number of canceled food orders and holiday parties and reservations as far away as East Greenwich. So I can't emphasize enough that travel times have decreased, particularly since the first day. So please, please, please do not abandon your local businesses. Just give yourself a little bit of extra time to get there. We need to have our businesses supported now more than ever. Many of our businesses earn 50% of their income in the month of December. And so to have them be hit so hard during this particular month, it's going to really affect them during the winter months. We also need to hear from more businesses. We need to hear about what their concerns are so that we can try to address them. Our hotline is 521-HELP, 521-HELP, or you can reach out to commerceri.com. We have a team of people at the Commerce Corporation ready to assist you, and we've been working very closely with our partners in Providence and East Providence to address any particular needs. I want to hand it over soon to Director Mark Hayward, but first I want to thank Director Mark Pappas and the Governor for so very quickly responding to and issuing the request for a disaster declaration to SBA Administrator Guzman. That will allow us to unlock a program, which I'll have Mark Hayward speak about now. Thank you.
Thank you. Afternoon, everyone. A very important number is 98.9% of all businesses here in the state of Rhode Island are small by SBA standards. So the impact really is on the small business community. I want to thank the governor and his staff, Mayor De Silva, Mayor Smiley, certainly Secretary Tanner. We've worked since we learned that the road was going to be closed to ensure that the small business community had a voice in what was happening. The governor, Mayor Smiley, Secretary Tanner, and I did a walk through Wayland Square yesterday. We talked to a lot of businesses. We got approximately 12 applications, which was critical as the basis for the governor requesting of the administrator for a economic injury declaration. The governor has signed the letter that has gone forward. I've been in constant contact with our FOC East, which is Field Operations Center East, which is in Atlanta, that will receive the governor's, I believe have already received the governor's letter. And we continue to work on how do we help small business. Once the administrator, and I do not want to get in front of what the administrator will do, but once a signature is attained on the document itself, FOC East is already preparing to send up a team to work with our small business community. This opens up the door for economic injury disaster loans, anywhere between 3% and 4% interest rate for up to $2 million. And a lot of people have asked us, what does this mean for people who took a disaster loan during COVID? That means you still can get an economic injury disaster loan. You're not precluded from getting an additional one. But the one thing that I want to talk about just briefly is the fact that it's not only access to capital or just basically working capital. Technical assistance is very important. That technical assistance is here now. They can use it now. The Small Business Development Center at the University of Rhode Island is standing by, willing to help small businesses that are having issues right today. Our Service Corps of Retired Executives, which are really people who are currently still working, but yet they serve as mentors to many people here in the state of Rhode Island, they are willing to help, as is the Center for Women in Enterprise. So we stand by our small business community. And really important, small businesses during this period of time between Thanksgiving and the New Year, will make it or break it. It's critical that people continue to go out and to support the small business community. Buy local, dine small, buy in a small business. If you can't get to that business and you want something from that business, call them. Get a gift card. Do something to help support our small business community.
Mayor, I think you're up.
Thank you, Governor.
Yes.
Thank you, Governor. I want to first start off by thanking Secretary Tanner, Director Hayward, Lieutenant Governor Matos, of course, Director Alvidi, and the Governor for all of the support they're providing our community. Our community is one of the communities that is most hard hit by this whole disruption. Yesterday we had a Zoom meeting with members of our business community. We had 80 people that had logged on to hear about some of the steps we're taking to help them. I learned today that we have a form that has received 150 responses from local small businesses in our community alone, asking for or letting us know some of the impacts that they've suffered as a result of this. So it brings me great pride or great satisfaction to know that the governor signed that letter and that hopefully Administrator Guzman follows through and we get some aid to our small businesses. As many of you know, yesterday we had distance learning for our schools. Today we had in-person learning. I spoke to our superintendent, and the latest, there was one bus that was about 30 minutes late, but most buses found their destination on time. We did have our police department out there helping to get some of the buses through the traffic. Of course, having school today did add to the congestion, but it's vitally important. I know that the governor and I both agree and stand uniform on this, that having in-person learning is much more beneficial to our students than having distance learning. So tomorrow we plan to have in-person learning again at East Providence schools, so we will be out there trying to help facilitate that. I also want to recognize the fact that Director Alvidi provided approximately 40 of his personnel, including trucks, to help block off some of the side roads, and that's offered great relief to the residents who live along the main routes. So they're now able to get out of their driveways, they're able to commute. I'm not saying that the traffic congestion has ended, it's still there, but it's moving. And you're talking about a 20-minute wait. I stand here to echo what was said earlier. Don't cancel your events if you have events scheduled. You can get to them, you just have to leave a little earlier. We are every day assessing the roadblocks and the traffic patterns that we have set up. Just today, we made a change on North Broadway. We decided to open up North Broadway to allow traffic to come down to access some of our businesses. So we are every day assessing and reassessing the traffic patterns so that we can make it more tenable for our residents and for our small businesses. With that, we're good. So thank you.
We'll start questions. I'm going to start right here with Chris, and then we'll go to Bill. Chris,
two quick questions, actually. One, Governor, any regrets from yesterday's, reaction to Brian's question? And second question is, will there be any, cost relief for rescue vehicles carrying pregnant women to hospitals?
The second question is if it's related to the closure of the bridge, we'll be getting information from the mayors in terms of itemizing the public safety issues and the rescue issues, and then we'll evaluate, making sure that they are actually expenses that have been incurred as a result of the bridge, and then the intention there is to reimburse. As far as yesterday was yesterday. I felt it's very important to make sure that people don't personalize this issue. That we stay very focused on the emergency status, and now the small business. So if it was, as I said, I certainly will be scrutinized on the comment. I understand that, but I hope that it's been given and the public understands that we don't need. This is not the time to personalize anything. This is the time to really rally behind the individuals that are doing the work here, and have confidence that the reality here is that the DOT and the engineers, we can say that they avoided a catastrophe, and we should provide that respect on the difficult decisions that are made by leadership, and so I'll leave it at that.
Bill?
Two quick ones. Governor, there seems to be a disconnect with the Rhode Island Turnpike and Bridge Authority in terms of not just tolls, but suspension of work that's ongoing on the Pell Bridge right now. they don't seem interested in allocating any more space for commuters who are using that South Passage, either using the bully pulpit or other action. Would you suspend that construction and demand that the Newport Bridge be free for all traffic?
So today, I might understand the traffic was running smoothly, according to Mayor Zai. We actually had a call with all the municipal leaders. We definitely will address the issue on an as-needs basis. I think that the Bridge Authority and their leadership is in discussions to make sure that anything that can be done could be done. I would recommend to individuals that are using it, that haven't used the bridge before, to get the transponder there to make sure that the cost goes from a $4 trip to an 88-cent trip, and we're making every effort to make sure that anybody that's new to the bridge usage understands how to actually get that.
And quickly for the director, if I may, the reports that were, the inspection reports that were released yesterday, are those in their original format as they were submitted to you?
Yeah, we're trying. A lot is happening fast and furious around here. So we're trying to get the information that's requested by all of you and the public out there as quickly as we can. So the information we put out yesterday was in raw form, which is the way we understand it here. And we understand that, a layperson having to review that, an engineering report, can be challenging, right? So I will say that basically what they say in technical terms, in lay terms, they say that in July, the inspection was made, and though the pins that are in question here, the anchor rods that are in question here, were in adequate, serviceable shape. And that during the construction of the span adjacent to this one, that we haven't gotten to yet, we saw that it was observed that there was a deficiency or a break, and we responded immediately to that. That's part of a whole process that we have in place between regular inspections, particularly on our deficient bridge inventory, followed by scheduling the construction of them, and then during the construction having everybody have a situational awareness that's working on those projects to make observances on the structural integrity as we're progressing through the construction. All of those mechanisms that we put in place actually worked out in this case, and everything happened according to the way it should. That's the best a layman explanation that I could give between the two, between the technical report that we published and the pictures you've seen of the fracture and the pin.
So the third-party inspector, the document that they submit to the DOT,
Yes.
is exactly what was released yesterday, unedited.
Yes, that's correct. It's raw data. Those are the kinds of reports that we receive on every single bridge in our inventory on a regular basis. And we put that, about 7 years ago, we put a regular and accelerated kind of monitoring and inspection process in place as part of what we do every day here, in order to keep ahead of the deterioration that many of these bridges face, particularly the ones in poor condition. We always look at that to see how we can improve it, make it more finite, and we always are. We have over the last 7 years. And we'll continue doing that going forward. But the inspections that we've had up until now, over 300 bridges that we've already made and reconstructed that were in a similar condition to that, those inspection reports gave us the data that you see in those reports for us to inform our decisions on what bridges to do next, when to do them, how far off in the future they should be done, and all of that data is collated on over 1,000 bridges that we have in the state. And our planning staff, our project management staff, our finance people, all work in a single unified way to continuously monitor condition and plan new construction so that we're staying ahead of deterioration. Once in a while, an extraordinary event will happen, as our engineers are telling us happened in this case. Some kind of outside force that was extraordinary over and above the normal use of, everyday use of the bridge, happened between July and now. That's the best information that they have, that they're giving to me, that I'm passing to you right now. We certainly will be having a look at the forensic analysis of, hopefully at least providing a bucket of potential explanations of what could have caused that failure between July and now. And we'll certainly use that information, and we'll have that looked at by an outside independent set of experts that could advise us on what the conditions that could have created that event to happen. And we'll be taking a look at that. But uncontrollable circumstances interfere. You've seen it happen, for example, in Philadelphia, where a truck full of fuel blew up and caused the failure of a bridge. We didn't have that kind of obvious kind of event happen, but we do know, our engineers do know, that some event like that happened between then and now. Because the pin in the condition that they were in July were determined by those experts to be able to have a lifespan that far exceeded the time that we're in the reconstruction process right now of all of those bridges.
We're going to go over to Alex and Alex.
This is for the governor. I just want to expand on the first question that was asked about recommendations for pregnant people to take ambulances if they're in the East Bay. Just want to get this on the record for people so it's not murky. Will they be reimbursed for that ambulance ride if they have to take it because of the bridge situation?
If they're taking it because of the bridge situation, and it's reported that way, we'll be covering that cost.
Yeah, state guidance shows that ambulatory transportation would be reimbursed if there is no other means of transportation or if it would endanger the individual's health. So in your eyes, that's what's going on with this situation, right?
Yes, and we got the emergency lane for those situations, and we're going to accommodate private ambulance as well as public ambulance.
Pregnant people and anyone with a serious emergency happening?
If they need to use that lane,
It's not about the lane, it's about using the ambulance and being reimbursed. People are concerned if
yeah.
they
So
don't want to take a $2,000
my understanding is
ambulance
that there's going to be reimbursement on an emergency
Your
situation.
Department of Health is looking into that right
Yes.
now. Okay. Alex?
Yep.
Also expanding on that first question,
Yes.
you know, you mentioned earlier you don't want people to personalize the issue about calling for Alvidi's resignation. However, there are a lot of calls for a change in leadership, including a change.org petition from a former state lawmaker. What do you say to people who don't understand why you're satisfied with how Rideout managed this, the bridge that got us to this point, and what does Alvidi have to say to these calls as well?
So it's a fair question there, and we're not, my point is on the issue is we've got professional staff that is doing work that is really important to protect the safety of the people in the state of Rhode Island. I don't want to lose focus on that. I've mentioned in my earlier comments that oversight is going to happen. And during that process, we'll make certain determinations in terms of how we got here and why and how we dealt with the issue. So I would just tell people they shouldn't be prejudging this at all. And that's my point even on the oversight. Both the Senate President and the Speaker have made a measured statement to say an oversight makes sense. I do agree with that. But I think that prejudging, as I'm hearing some of the public, some of our leaders, that's not appropriate, right? Let's let the facts and let's go over the facts at the appropriate time. Right now, it's about the emergency at hand, as we've described, and that's why we're meeting here daily. We don't normally do this. The emergency at hand, the safety, as I mentioned, that we should be applauding the individuals that made the decision to close down the bridge to save people's lives. And anybody who's going over the top and trying to personalize it, then that's when I become a little bit, I'm defending the space that I need to defend, and I'm letting people know that they should not be prejudging this issue, but yet oversight, we're on board with that. In fact, we'll do an internal oversight, right, to make sure that we're getting the information that we need. But at this moment in time, when that decision was made on Monday, the public should have the confidence that the decision was made correctly, and the work that has transpired since that moment has been done professionally.
We're going to go to Pat and then Patrick.
Two very, very quick questions. Mr. Hayward?
Yes.
You're never to be retiring, Mr. Hayward. Can you talk to us about loans versus grants? and I have a question, quick follow-up for Mr. Alviti, but loans versus grants, right now, the business community, they're grateful for low interest loans, particularly with the guarantees that are put in place, but at the same time, debt.
Fully understand that. SBA does not have a grant program as it relates to the disaster program. So the only option that we have at this time, and the governor's requested that the agency come in with economic injury disaster loan, and those are low interest loans, which would benefit. And the business can also look at the existing debt that they have and retire some of that, debt on a regular basis. So there are some advantages to that. Most importantly, we just want to make sure that the business community has the access to capital that they need.
Very good, thank you, sir. Mr. Alviti, very quick question. When you look at the totality of traffic moving through the region, now we've been blessed over the last day or two because of the improved management techniques as far as traffic movement to have lesser traffic. But how much of that, and do you have a sense of how much of that is simply because people have sort of shut it down for the rest of the year, and how the agency is going to be ready for a resumption of normal traffic post-January 1st?
Yeah. Yes. Some of the blend of reasons that we've seen a reduction in the amount of traffic or the congestion that people experienced that first day was that people are now making choices. In other words, some of the reduction we're seeing is coming from people making the choice to remote work. Some of the reduction we're seeing in people changing the timing of their commute to a different time of the day where there's lesser traffic, and it relaxes those peak times that we have in the morning and the afternoon. Some of it is as a result of the work that the mayor and of Providence and East Providence and our folks collaborated on, creating and streamlining the detour route pathways to distribute the change in traffic volume so that it works most efficiently, or as efficiently as we can. All of those reasons, you're absolutely right. All of those reasons contributed to the reduction. As it resumes, we expect that we're going to see that same kind of balancing take place. As I said, the 2 lanes that we're opening is not going to create the capacity that the original 4-lane bridge did. So there's still going to be some friction, and people will begin to make decisions after the first couple of days we open those 2 lanes up. And we'll see, again, a redistribution and an increase overall in traffic, but a decrease, I think, overall in the time of travel. To the issues of people avoiding going places and changing their schedules, I'd say on the resumption of the 2 lanes, that should recreate the capacity and reduce the travel time for most people to get back to almost normal. Where our traffic engineers are creating and will be publishing on our website, making available to all of you, for different kinds of commutes, what they were originally when all 4 lanes of the existing bridge were open, what they turned into on the first couple of days, what they are at present, and what we expect them to be when we open those 2 lanes up. So that I think once that's out there, people can look at those, reassess any of the plans that they're making, and probably relax some of the concerns they have about getting to and from places.
I'm going to go to Patrick and then Caitlin.
This is for Director LVDC. Stepping back a little bit, and stepping back actually like 2016, the roadworks legislation was just recently passed. We're implementing a lot of changes at DOT and putting together this long list of key bridge reconstruction projects that you've referenced. I believe at that point, this bridge was on that list, and that was when the first procurements went out for work for that bridge. At that point, when did you think that this bridge and the areas that have caused problems would have been repaired? And if it was before now, what happened to prevent it from being repaired in those 7 odd years?
So I think the plans for this bridge and its place in our schedule of bridges to do has always had the place that it's in right now. We understand that the Washington Bridge is one of the biggest bridges that we have, and more importantly, there are a large number of separate spans that create the westbound lanes. And we initially did, almost immediately in roadwork, some preservation work in a first phase. And the work on this bridge is planned out to be done in phases rather than all at once. It's done in phases because while we're building it, we still have 90,000 vehicles a day going over it. So it's always envisioned as a project that would take us out to 2026. Even with this having to reprogram some of that and accelerating some of the work we were going to do in additional phases of this project and accelerating them forward, particularly in the case where the failure took place. In the overall schedule, our project engineers and our project managers will reprogram now the sequencing of all the rest of the work that we'll be doing on these bridges by moving this section up. And they don't expect that reprogramming will change the 2026 timeline. We're still shooting at meeting that or even sooner.
We're gonna go Caitlin, Allegra, Brian.
Mr. Alvini, I've spoken with engineers who say the break in the pin looks more like a break from weight and not age. They refer to the term necking. Any comment on that?
So you've got to understand that this is not the kind of a pin that's holding up a load. So it would not break by downward pressure on it. These are actually anchor rods that are holding the deck down, that wants to move in an upward direction. They're on the opposite side of a cantilever structure. So I think those engineers should take a look at some of the engineering reports that we put out. They'll probably have a different opinion because those pins are not in compression where they would break because of weight being put on them. Rather, they broke in form of tension, which a tensile break in a rod like that is caused by excessive tension, which could have been the result of a heavy and severe load at the cantilever end of that structure. Those are the kinds of things that forensically we're going to have some of the best experts in the country take a look at and advise us on.
I spoke to a lot of people riding their bikes yesterday, and some people suggested if there's a way to get more of the blue bikes or public bikes over to the east side. Is that something that is a possible consideration?
It hasn't been up until now, but thank you for the suggestion. I'll certainly have our mobility group take a look at that as a potential option that we open up. The ferry and other kinds of options. We're looking at all options available to us and the public to get back and forth.
All right, we're gonna go Brian and then Ed.
Director Alvini, just
Yes.
following up on Bill's questions about the inspection and a timeline. When was the next inspection supposed to happen? Did it be annual?
So for a bridge like this, it would have been annual, but because it was part of a sequence of phasing of construction, the construction that's happening would have caught up to it prior to it falling into the next cycle.
What would you make of the assessment then that this may have been like a lucky catch by that engineer at a time when another inspection was not?
Very, very much not the case. Our construction folks are very much brought up to speed on the condition of the bridges that we're in the process of reconstructing. And they are trained to have a specific sense of what's happening during construction. Many of the 300 bridges that I told you about had conditions that were either brought about before the period of time that we got to construct them from the last inspection, that as we break them apart and we can observe some of the substructure kind of conditions, have additional deficiencies that are uncovered during construction. So our staff and our management structure is set up so that there's a high level of sensitivity of our staff and the consultants that we hire to monitor the condition of the bridge while it's under construction, or in this case, the adjacent structure to it, and report back any discrepancies that they see as that process. And that's what happened in this case.
You said yet, do you know how close a catastrophe was to happening given the condition of the bridge?
No, there's no way of knowing. the bridges are built with certain safety factors. So even with some deficiencies happening, the safety factors in the overall integrity of the bridge, but we don't take those safety factors into account when making the kinds of decisions that our engineers forwarded to us in this case. We always err on the side of safety and the protection of human life, which is what we did in this case.
We're gonna go to Ed.
Director Ovidi, since this problem was identified by someone who was not inspecting this bridge at that time, the public's wondering what's going to change in the process to make sure something like this never happens again? They're like, are you going to have more frequent inspections in bridges that have these kinds of pins? So that's the big picture question. Just a smaller question is, Representative Knight had posted that he did not see anybody working on the bridge. He thought there should be a 24/7 operation last night. If you could respond to that.
So let me take your second question first. We corrected Representative Knight. He apparently did a quick drive-by and didn't observe that there were a number of Etna Bridge trucks out there. Their employees were working on repinning the permanent barrier. Some of their employees were working below the deck overnight in order to make sure that pinning was substantial and stayed in place. So he did not observe. There were people working 24/7, as I said. That's the very reason that they doubled up and worked 24/7. That's one of the changes that we made in the first day of construction of the bypass, to make sure that the contractor was out there 24/7. And that's what allowed us to move the completion time from 2 weeks down to 4 days as it's turning out. So on the second question, what was it again?
Yeah, well,
there are other pins like this. Yeah. So we continuously have a feedback loop here of what we observe in the field and what our inspections are. The inspection process that we put in place 7 years ago that we've been using, even during that time, we've changed according to findings in the field. And we refine it. We continuously refine it. In this case, there is no way of anticipating a severe, uncontrollable circumstance that may come about. A truck exploding on the bridge and having it fall, or a severe load being imposed on it, even unbeknownst to us. There's no way for us to be able to have those kinds of controls in place that could continuously monitor an uncontrollable weather-related load that may be placed on our bridges or otherwise. But I am confident that we have had, up until now, enough frequency in our inspections and a continuous monitoring of our inspections as we see these bridges reach the end of their life to protect us from getting into having to close down lanes for a week. And in this case, we'll certainly look at whether or not remember that this construction technique was used back in 1968. We no longer use this precisely for this reason. Bridges in those days were many times designed with a critical element allowed to be designed and built. Those critical elements over the years have been removed from the design process so that we're designing bridges much safely now. We wouldn't design that bridge in the same way now that they did back in 1968.
How many other bridges are designed this way?
As far as we know, this was a kind of a unique design on these spans across the Washington Bridge. I'm not aware right now of any others that we have in our inventory like this.
Thompson, your last question.
Director, yesterday you presented 2 photographs of that same bridge pin, one from the July inspection, one from last week.
Yep.
And you said that it proved that something catastrophic had happened in the interim.
Yes.
However, if you look at that January photo, you cannot see the area in question.
Yep.
That the way that photo was taken, a cement block obscures the base of that pin
Yep.
that failed. So do you concede that fact, and do you also admit that maybe something, that it may have happened sooner than what you think?
No, because the data in the report that's associated with that concluded that all of those pins were in proper working order, and while the photograph may not have been taken, remember, these are inspectors that are out there not knowing that several years from now, they need to have a clear view of the entire element. The report that they made on it as part of the data that we presented yesterday concluded that all of those pins were in order and structurally sound. So it wasn't just the visual picture that proves that, but the text of the
Yesterday
report.
you were saying that comparison itself
Yeah.
showed that if anyone is disputing this fact, all they had to do was look at that photograph.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it would or wouldn't. In other words, the people taking the two pictures didn't necessarily place themselves in the same position that the other person was in. That's all I can say about that.
Thank you, guys.